Welcome to CCI Drive Time, the podcast for vended laundry distributors. I'm Steve with CCI, using your drive time to cover laundromat trends, payment systems, and practical topics you can use in the field. Today I sat down with Jamie Sewell. Jamie has been in the industry for many years and has just an incredible resume of experiences that led to a terrific conversation. She's done everything from technology for laundries. She was part of the CLA. She's currently part of the CLA. She worked within manufacturing. She is known for her marketing prowess in the industry. She owns a store now, and she also has just recently acquired Laundry University. We get to learn a little bit about that. But she's a wealth of information, great conversation. Without further ado, here is Jamie Sewell. Jamie, how are you today?
Hi, great to see you. Thanks for having me, Steve.
It's great to see you as well. Thank you for joining me here on a Friday afternoon, the time everybody wants to sit and have these kind of conversations. But thanks you. It's really great to have you on, and I'm looking forward to this. We have bumped into each other on the road for a number of years, but we've not spent a lot of time together. Maybe a little more recently, because you seem to be really doing a lot, and that's actually one of the things I was really impressed as I started to kind of look into what you've been up to, and you are into a lot right now, and I am extremely impressed with what you've been doing, and your resume is also extremely impressive. I think it's going to be a great conversation here because of your perspective comes from a lot of different parts of the industry. And so I really appreciate you taking a few minutes today to talk to me. But to get started, I would love for you to just kind of give everybody an introduction to yourself, and kind of like how you started in the laundry business, and give us a little bit of that resume. There's a lot to it, so we could spend probably an hour just talking all the things you've done. But give us the Cliff Notes version of it, because it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So I'm Jamie Sewell, and I've been in this industry since the beginning of 2013. And my background was in sales and marketing for technology, so not laundry initially. I worked for Dell Computers, then a specialty touchscreen manufacturer in Austin, and then I moved up to Chicago and ended up getting recruited to work for the Coin Laundry Association. So I led marketing for them, and was frequently asked to speak on marketing and how to market your laundromat. And I'm like, oh man, I guess I better figure this out. So I got to figure out how to market a laundromat. And so that was really one of the things that I've kind of become known for. And so I worked for CLA for a few years, and then ended up being one of 3 people that started the world's first cashless laundromat. So that was called Washlava. And so we were a vertically integrated technology company. And the whole concept was, you're going to pay from your phone with an app.
Yeah.
But we started that company in
early.
2015.
Yeah.
So it was fairly revolutionary at the time. Like, I remember calling a CLA board member and being like, we're going to get rid of the quarters.
Yeah.
So I think it was like about 90% coin operated at that point. And so it was a really interesting concept. And so we did do a completely cashless laundromat in a suburb here in Tampa. And then I ended up overseeing a lot of technology initiatives for Alliance Laundry Systems. And so I brought Speed Queen Insights and Hipsh Command and a few other tech platforms to market for Alliance. And then after that, I went into consulting for laundromats. So a lot of marketing consulting, but also some technology and strategy consulting. And then I thought, I really want to do something that's really going to have a bigger impact on people in a bigger way. And so I actually left the industry And I became a certified coach for women entrepreneurs and a yoga instructor. And then lo and behold, I had this epiphany, and I said, you know, what would go really well with my coaching business is a laundromat. Um,
You got pulled back in.
yeah, I got pulled back in, and so I bought a laundromat in Tampa, Florida, called Clean Vibes Laundry Company, and then from there got asked to help store owners with marketing, and now I serve on the board of CLA, and yeah, I get to talk about laundromats and
Yeah.
marketing and technology all the time, so it's super fun.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing resume, as I said, and you guys have you've really come full circle to it. And I love how you've taken the stuff that you started working on when you left the industry, and you've kind of roped it back into what you're doing now. And I have had the opportunity to hear you speak a few times on the road, and I think we're going to be at the same event here in early August again soon, so we'll get to see each other again. But I love the store ownership journey a little bit. And so tell me a little bit about, because I think, again, I know this is a podcast for distributors, but I think understanding store ownership a little bit from people who are doing it and why they get into it. You obviously had all of this experience in the tech field, marketing, more, I'm going to say corporate related, but then you found your way back to store ownership. What was the draw? Why? What brought you back?
You know, I think the draw is what draws a lot of people to buy laundromats, right? So it's it's not passive, right? We know it's not passive, but the semi-passive nature, the flexible nature. You know, I was like, I think this would be another complementary income stream
Hmm.
for me, and you know, I was like, you know, it's a big investment, but I actually know something about this business, and I have relationships with people in this industry, and as we know, relationships are so important. And so, you know, I was like, I get to, you know, work with people that I trust. And so it was really a combination of those things. You know, I'm like, if I'm going to make this big investment, it needs to be in something that I think I know something about. And so, yeah, that was laundromats.
So what surprised you most? You know, obviously you spent all this time supporting the industry and laundromat owner, and then now all of a sudden you own a laundry. So what's something that was maybe that surprised you once you actually were in the throes of operating a store?
Well, I think the thing that still surprises me, even though it's not really a surprise, is how hands-on you have to be with your staff.
Mm,
I have a part-time store manager who's fantastic. He's really a little bit more of like an operations manager. And he handles a lot of the things with staff. But I think until you get to maybe a certain size, maybe a whole fleet of laundromats, you know, nothing really replaces the owner, not completely,
hmm.
you know. So, and we see that in all sorts of businesses, not just laundromats.
For sure.
You know, so he handles a lot of the day to day, but you know, I am involved every single day.
Hmm.
So, you know, I think you know you can have great processes and procedures and checklists and onboarding and all of these things, and it still is going to be a challenge always.
Yeah, I think that's important, particularly for people who are trying to get into this business, to realize that, you know, and you used the term is getting tossed around about being passive and all these things, but that you followed it with the term I use, which is flexible. I think
Yeah.
you have better flexibility than maybe a lot of other things you can get into, but passive is not the right word to choose to be in this. And you're leading me right into where I wanted to ask you next, which is, you know, so go back to all of the years that you've been supporting this industry. What are the patterns or things that you notice the most successful operators adopt? What kind of traits are they taking on? And I have a feeling it might have something to do with what you just said that you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. So I've worked with some of the most successful laundromat operators in the country. and they've got many stores over multiple states. And so I've learned a lot from them. And some of those things would be that they make decisions really quickly. They're not afraid to try things. At Excellence, the coach from the Savannah Bananas was there. You
Yeah.
probably heard him. And, he talked about that, right? Like they get more reps in. They try things, they test things, they iterate, and they iterate faster than everybody else. And that's something that I've seen over and over again, where they're curious and they say, yep, let's try it. They don't overthink, right? So they're not in this like analysis paralysis. I think that's one of the biggest things. I think they're a little bit more risk tolerant. So I think they treat it a little bit more like a game. And so they're not afraid to take some calculated risks. They definitely invest in their marketing and their brand, and they definitely invest in their people and their processes. Like
Yeah.
to me, that's like the winning combination.
It seems so obvious, but not at the same time. I love that. I think this idea that you're investing in your people, that's number one. And you just talked about your manager, and you've obviously invested in that person to get you there, but your own involvement has to be there in the early stages. Yeah, you know what? This idea too, I think that many small owners get into, and I'm sure maybe you feel it too, is there's always a little bit of a fear that if you make a change, that it's going to somehow have this. We always overthink what the impacts of that change are going to be, and overcoming that fear and trying new things, try something different. If it doesn't work, then you learn that doesn't work. You check it off the box and you move on to something else. But not being afraid to try something really needs to be part of all small business, I think, to some layer. I think it's mostly in our own heads that some little change is going to make a massive impact on our business in some way or the other. I think we're all just trying to push the needle a little bit at a time. I don't think there's one thing that's going to explode anybody's business. We're just in either direction, frankly. We're just trying to make the right changes that are going to improve either our time or the business's performance in some way or the other. And we should be less fearful to be agile, and to make changes like that. That's amazing.
I'll say one more thing. I think
Yeah.
the most successful operators, and this is for any small business, is that they actually end up making their own game. Like, you have to know what you're doing, right? But like the most successful people they're playing their own game. They're not playing somebody else's game. And so, if you put 5 of us in a room, none of our businesses are going to look exactly the same, even though in theory we might be selling or doing very similar things, because we all have our own unique gifts, skills, abilities. We all see different things. And I think for store owners in particular, the best ones are playing their own game. They're not playing somebody else's game.
Yeah, I think that leads into this idea that, yeah, we're all doing laundry. I mean, we all know that we're all issuing a similar service to the communities that we're in. But if we're just replicating what the guy down the street is doing, or we're just playing his game, then what makes us different? Why would someone go here versus there? Or, so, that just leans in perfectly with what you said is, play your own game and, be different. Why not? Be bold, be unique. Why not? And give people a noticeable reason to do business with you versus someone else's, offering. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
So we talked about, go ahead, finish.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I think what I wanted to do is kind of pull this back a little bit. Because before we hit play here, hit record, this is a distributor focused conversation, but I think it's obviously important for us to continue to understand what store owners are going through, what they're thinking, what works, because that's advice that distributors can lean on, and they can call upon that. But you just talked about, opening a store yourself not long ago, and working with a distributor, and maybe not having the experience that you would like to see. And so, as somebody who's been through it firsthand now. Obviously, you work with distributors in your prior life, laundry life, and now you're a store owner, and now you even have other things that you're doing. We're going to get to some of that, but I would love to hear from your perspective what role you think distributors should be playing. Obviously, they're going to sell you equipment, but what should a good distributor do for a store owner? What are the traits they should take on?
Yeah. So to me, I think about distributors like tour guides, right? So distributors, they kind of see a whole bunch of different things. And so they see a whole bunch of things that work, and then they see some things that don't work. And, I also think of distributors really as trusted advisors and consultants. And, the coach in me says, hey, and actually I always use this at Alliance, how do you want to run your business? What do you imagine for yourself? What do you imagine for your future? What do you want the customer experience to be? And I think when we start to get curious from that perspective, that's a completely different conversation. When you've obviously been in this industry a very long time. When I got into this industry, you'll know this. The line was, do you want coin or card?
Yes.
Right? Do you want a card store or a coin store? It's like this or that. Like that was the choice that we gave owners when they got into the business. That was like the defining thing about the laundromats. But now it's especially with technology and more sophistication with ownership and their past experience and owners that quite frankly have more skin in the game. The conversation has changed so much. And so I think as much as distributors can think differently for their customers, like, really kind of put yourself in the customer's shoes and help imagine with them what they want to create for their community. I think I think that distributors that do that, that's gold. And, I don't think their customers would want to let them go. It's so that, and that's thinking long-term. I think it's easy to think like, okay, we're going to do this store and then we're going to go do this store. And, you're just kind of checking the boxes. But, as a store owner, I want to be partnered with somebody on 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't want to have to like recreate the wheel with my equipment and my distributor, each time I open a store.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said a bunch of things there that I think are worth circling back to, and particularly this idea that a good distributor, and you said it, not me, takes, and it goes back to the previous conversations, like be something unique and different, be the observer of those unique and different things, and provide a channel to somebody that's not thinking uniquely and give them some ideas, some thoughts. It's not to copy them, but to show these examples of how being different can be successful, how you can find success that way or find something to solve a problem. And that the distributor is supposed to be this observer of everything going on, and then a concentration of the things that are working and the things that are not, as well as being an observer of just the communities too, of like, yeah, stores generally do better in this side of town than that side of town, and just that kind of observation. And then being that last layer of education on all the hardware stuff, which is frankly the last thing you really should worry about. One is getting the business right, getting the location right, getting his other things right. How you're going to, is his business right for you, and seeing the observations. I love that. And, I think that the relationship part, which I think you also kind of landed on at the end, is underutilized as well. As it shouldn't just be thought of as a single transaction. It should be an ongoing relationship. Again, prior to us, click and record here, this idea that in my day, 27 years ago, that there was no other, when someone bought equipment from you, they were like your friends. They were your families were together for years, because you were so closely bonded over the fact that he needed to be successful enough to open store 2, and you were going to do whatever it took to get there. And he also had a strong enough feeling that he needed you to be successful so that you would be there for them to kind of support the efforts. And there was, clear definitions of responsibilities in that relationship, but then there was also a merger of success that needed to be symbiotic in a lot of ways. We talked about Jason Fleck before we got into somebody that we both have spent a bunch of time with.
Yeah.
And Jason talked about this recently, about him doing these blitzes, when he was working with distributors regularly. And that's a perfect example of seeing all of these locations and then being able to talk about what he saw when you finally connected with somebody. Because obviously in a blitz, you might connect with somebody one out of every 15 or 20 stops, right? But you got to see every one of those locations in between. And when you landed on somebody that was there, you had something to talk about and it was happening in that area. So the distribution is so much about being that observer and then being the guy that shares what you've seen. That's perfect. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to say there is, so it's the observer, and then it's also like over a sustained period of time, right?
Yeah.
So especially as our culture at large has changed, right? We think that success is like overnight. These overnight successes that are like, 20 years in the making, right? It was just instant. And, for store owners, we have to think long term about our success. The store may just be, you may open and it's just hot day one. But it may not, right? You've got to evaluate the success of the business over a long period of time. And distributors need to have that perspective as well, because it's not just about doing a bunch of stores in 1 year or 2 years or something like that in the short term. But like, to your point about family, right? Like, what does success look like over a 20 or 30 or multi-generational period of time? What does that look like? And that's a different conversation.
And I think if you're open to the idea of having a relationship deeper than just the contract on paper, it's also a much more comfortable way to work every day. When you are going to work with the people that you like, that has a similar feeling about you that you have with them as far as them wanting to be successful. It's not one side trying to, squeeze the price down to zero where there's no margin left. And it's not the distributor trying to overpile equipment into a store that doesn't need all that. It's it's this relationship that forms, and the fact that because you have this family feeling, it's just more enjoyable. It's just a more enjoyable day. So I love that we're talking about this, because I think even for new people getting into this business, and there's going to be lots of new people, having to get into the distribution side of things, like every layer of this industry, they need to be thinking about it, not just about the iron that they're expected to sell this month, but it's about, if you want to sell a lot of iron, start forming relationships with these, and they'll take care of you for 20 years. Don't just be thinking about next quarter, next month. Start thinking about the next 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah, right. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I'd love to circle back a little bit on your marketing experience. And, you are known for marketing. I've seen you do a number of things to talk about marketing. I think I even tried to hire you once for marketing, but you were not in that place at one point.
Thank you.
I didn't take it. You took my call. I asked and you declined very graciously, but it's only a statement of that you were known for that. And it was something that I certainly thought was valuable, and you've leveraged it. So I think it'd be interesting to hear a little bit about what you think, what kind of mistakes, and maybe it doesn't have to be mistakes, but maybe it's a lack of trying, but what are the mistakes that store owners are doing when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, one thing I always say is, so let's think, like, say you invest $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, like,
there's almost no limit anymore. Yeah.
All of those are large amounts of money, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you're going to invest this money in this store, and then you're not going to set aside a healthy budget for your marketing. Like, you need to protect your investment. Like, just point blank, you have to protect your investment. And if you can ensure that you can consistently and reliably bring people into your business, then that will solve a lot of problems for you. And so I think some manufacturers and distributors might provide marketing packages.
Right.
That usually concerns me a little bit because it's free,
Yeah.
but I think sometimes it ends up being like the most expensive marketing you can do,
Yeah.
because you're not investing in your brand. So it's easy to think, oh, a brand is like a color and logo. No, a brand is like the essence of who you are, as a business. And so really thinking through, what do I want the customer experience to be? And how do I incorporate all of the five senses into that experience? The online marketing is obviously how most of us find local businesses first.
Sure.
And so, local marketing is online marketing is so important. But then, you've got a storefront, right? And what does that say to the world about your business? And is that an exciting, inviting, interesting, clean, safe place? Like, what does the marketing on your exterior say about your business? And then, there's print mail and things like that, billboards. And so you got to look at like the whole picture. And especially like year one, year two, you kind of have to do all of it. I think it's easy like to look on the forums and people will say, oh, Facebook marketing doesn't work, or Google ads are the only thing that works, or you don't really need a website, or you don't really need to do mailers. Just do a free laundry day and all your problems are going to be solved. But the reality is that how you do each of those things matters tremendously. So it matters, how your website's SEO performs. That matters. It matters how you have your ad campaigns dialed in. It matters if you're showing pictures of your laundromat, online or in mailers like that. Those things matter. It matters how you're tracking your conversions. And so there's all these things that go into successful marketing. And I think that a lot of times people don't understand all of the mechanisms. And so we end up with bad information.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing to kind of condense that down, first off, I'm hearing is you got to spend some money. I mean, you have to invest in your investment here. And so the marketing layer of your operating budget needs to be significant. And in the first few years, it's critical as anything else. But I think what I'm also hearing from you is that you can't just look at marketing as a checklist. Oh yeah, website. Yeah, I got a Facebook page. Oh yeah, I'm on Google Maps. I mean, it's not just checking boxes. Oh yeah, I've got all of that. I must be done with my marketing. There's layers to every one of those things that requires follow up and a little bit of understanding, a little bit of work behind some of that. And so, probably having somebody help you is probably a really good idea. And some of it's like you said, some of the manufacturing offerings are a sign package or, maybe a few things that they do, but they're just checking the boxes. And again, if free is a very good term for maybe the way some of these are, you got to invest something. And I feel like what I see is they spend nothing. And then they and again, we run retail businesses, so we have storefronts. I mean, that's a big part of our advertising, right? Is having a storefront with a sign on it, and there is a layer to that. But that organic growth is probably going to come to how much traffic do you have? What are your anchors around you? And that thing. If you want to actually open eyes and have them forced to be look at you, you're going to have to spend a little bit, and you're going to have to look at all of those layers. So yeah, it's a good reminder. It doesn't just happen. That's good. Good stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing, and I think this is important for distributors, right? So distributors put together performas. Well, a lot of times there's just not enough marketing spin. It is a line item. I think it says like marketing and advertising or something like that. Yeah. I think my performa maybe had $300, $800.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's just $50 in there. You should be fine.
Yeah, and so we would think about like, and this is I found that a lot some like successful laundromats generally do fall in this range too, but most businesses are spending between 3 and 12% of their revenue on marketing. And when I calculated the numbers for myself, I also fell in that range. And I think that we in the laundry industry, we've been spoiled, that we've had many decades of great harvest. And the fact of the matter is that the dynamics in our industry are changing. And I don't say that for like doom and gloom, but I'm saying like we have to treat this like a real business. And real businesses do invest in marketing for customer acquisition.
Yeah, no, that's well said. You've got to earmark the right amount, and we can easily look at other industries and find out what they're spending on marketing to find out that it works, and the competitiveness that we're seeing, particularly with some of the we're seeing PE firms come in and buying a lot of stores. They're not going to skimp on some of those spends because they've been doing it in the other industries that they've been involved in. It's just a natural thing. So, for independent store owners, I think we're not at a disadvantage. We just have to do the right things. We have to spend in the right spots.
We just have to up our game.
That's it. That's it.
Just up your game. And I think even within my laundromat, so I intentionally chose colors that are not laundromat colors.
Good.
So my colors are like a greenish teal and like coral.
Okay.
So not laundromat color, like not blue, right? And I have no bubbles. There are no bubbles.
No bubbles. Oh, I love
that.
This
is like a Florida tropical vibe, and I think at the end of the day, everybody, both individually and with our businesses, we're selling a feeling.
Yeah.
We're not just selling, washers and dryers. We're not just selling clean laundry. We're selling a feeling. And so for my business, that's how I approach it, is like, that's what I'm selling. Every customer, they're going to get good vibes and clean laundry delivered in every load.
That's awesome. I love the tagline, and it's refreshing to not have any bubbles on any of your walls. It's like the default. Anybody that creates, you send any kind of artwork into somebody, there'll be bubbles on it as soon as you mention laundromat. It's like, okay.
I know.
I tell you how many laundry cards we've designed for people, and they send us artwork, and almost every one of them has got bubbles on it somewhere.
Yes, you will find 0 bubbles on mine.
That's it. Good. Well, let's touch on that just briefly, because I want to get into something that I'm excited to hear about. But you have a technology background too, and so you've experienced different approaches here. This cashless store. You were way ahead of your time, I think, to some degree there. Yeah. We talked about that, but even the getting involved in the manufacturers, developing their own platforms for technology that we hadn't seen. I think certainly Alliance made one of the biggest investments there to try to get more technology focused, even in, and obviously adding their own payment layers to the equation. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. You can tell me whether or not is there something that you're excited about that you're seeing? Is there something that makes you nervous? My feeling is that we've got some people are very nervous about some of this technology, and other people that are super excited about it. Tell me, what are you excited about? Is there anything out there that you're excited about on the tech side?
One of my friends outside of the industry, she says, your job is to chop wood and carry water. That's your job. You show up, you chop wood, you carry water. And so anybody who's worried about the technology side, show up, chop your wood, carry your water, like do the things that you need to do. And so I think hopefully, like maybe that helps. Maybe it doesn't help with like the AI and the PE.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming to get us. Like we have a lot of choices. We have a lot of agency on a day-to-day basis, and so I think the cool and exciting thing is that we have a lot more technology options now
Hmm.
than we did, 10 years ago.
Tell me about it. Okay, go
Well, yeah, right. Yes.
ahead.
Yes. So many more technology options. And I think really that's to people's benefit more than it
Yeah.
is to their detriment. There's always going to be surprises and things that you didn't foresee.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, like we have access to so much more. And I think that a lot of laundromat owners are taking advantage of that. We've got more multi-store owners than ever before.
Hmm.
I opened my laundromat when I was living in Columbus, Ohio.
Mm.
So, you know, I knew that I needed a stable payment system
Yeah.
that didn't have quarters, that I
Yeah.
could, have some automation built in and visibility and all of that stuff that I could manage from anywhere. And
Hmm.
so, I think that's what any of the technology systems give us is
Sure.
the freedom and the ability to manage it from anywhere. And I think so. I just think that's super exciting. I think we're going to see more with AI, obviously. And
Yeah.
so some store owners are building their own dashboards and
Hmm.
things like that. So I think we're going to continue to see more with predictive analytics.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's smart sensors on some of these machines these days. So there's the start of some predictive analytics already built into that. So I think that it's really overwhelmingly positive. If we choose to look at it that way, AI is not going to solve all of our problems. It's not. But if we want to use it and if it's fun for us, if it's exciting, go for it. So I kind of think that's where it's going. And I think that will also roll into the marketing side. I think we'll start to see more marketing automation. We're starting to see some more of that. But I think we'll start to see, just a continuation of that so that we really start to tailor the customer experience and personalize it we can use AI to kind of foster that relationship, more
Hmm.
lead nurturing and things like that. So that's where I think it's headed.
Yeah, no, I agree. Being an old timer at this point, I remember a time where there was only a couple of us that were doing a lot of doing technology in laundries, and so certainly there's a part of me that wishes those days were still here, but that's unrealistic. But I can tell you what it has done is it's like this term, a high tide rises all boats, and so
Hmm.
it has certainly forced anybody who's decided to stay in this business, because it's not easy to get better. And I think that's just good for everybody. It's good for all the store owners, all the consumers of any kind of goods. When there's good competition, when there's more demand for it, because certainly the demand has also increased immensely since there's been more options available. And then all of the options just get a little better, and they keep getting better, and they keep getting better and stronger. And we have more minds thinking about this industry in that way, then there's going to be better ideas of how to leverage these tools. So yeah, no, I think you're right. I'm not overly concerned about AI taking over the store business, but I think there's going to be there's going to be things that are going to be good, good for it. So yeah, that's well put. Thinking of technology a little bit in this regard, I want to talk about your new venture here. Let's say the
Yeah.
latest thing in Jamie's world here, Laundry University. So I'll admit that I never knew much about this product until I started looking into you acquiring it and starting to kind of figure out what it is. And so I want you to start by just explaining what is Laundry University. You recently acquired this company. Just tell us about what this is.
Yeah, so Laundry University is a online training platform that helps train, standardize, and scale professional laundry services.
Okay.
So it was built by Colleen Unuma, who had Brio Laundry on
Mm-hmm.
the West Coast, and she was a former biology professor. And
Oh, I didn't know
so,
that. Okay.
she took her teacher brain and she went into the laundry industry. And so she was making all these binders with like at the time her laundry was called Q Laundry. So she was making Q-tips for all of her employees. And so she had all these binders, because she was a teacher, right? So she wants to teach all of her employees about, the proper way to do laundry. And then she realized that there's a thing called employee turnover. No matter how good, you run your store, you're going to have employee turnover. And she realized that she was like repeating herself over and over, and nobody's really looking in these binders, right? Like they're busy, they're at work. And so she ended up creating this online platform, learning platform. And so it's a 4-part certification program for owners and employees. And as I started to look into it, I've known Colleen for a long time, more and more. And now as me owning it, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. Like it's literally a no-brainer because I've hired 13 people for my laundromat in the last year.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a pretty good owner. But that means that's 13 times that myself or my managers have had to walk somebody through the proper way to do laundry. And then there's a learning curve, right? And so it's really great because there's quizzes at the end of each video. The videos are short.
Okay.
Great because our attention
span, yeah.
Yeah, our attention spans are short. And so they're short videos. There's a quiz after every video, and then there's a final quiz at the end of each level.
Okay.
And so then you get a certificate. And so that's great for owners because it allows them basically to like scale themselves or multiply themselves. They don't have to walk every employee through all the ins and outs of how to fold laundry and how to package it up and how to, get whiter whites. So, so all of that is in the Laundry University program. And then level 400, which is the top level, is for owners. And so that actually teaches the business of laundry. So it's the numbers, it's how to manage the staff, like it's how to acquire more customers. So it's all the business stuff is in level 400. And then there's a whole learning library, which is specialty items. So how to treat elder care laundry, how to do smoke remediation laundry, how to treat waterproofing items. So there's a whole library dedicated to really the things I say are going to make you the most money. So if the first part is like kind of get your feet under you, like if you're a new owner,
Sure.
and your employees get their feet under them. And then the second part is like, okay, how do I actually like scale this thing? How do I specialize myself and differentiate myself in the market, with these specialty items. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize the owner part of it, and it makes a lot of sense to have another tier of that to talk about things that there is because again we go back to distribution a little bit and we think about when someone's getting into the business and they've never owned a laundry before and they decide I want to be in this business, I found a location, I want to do this, and sometimes the attractiveness of laundromats. One of the things, certainly not your experience because you had so much experience, is you don't need to have any specific kind of experience to own a laundry. You know what I mean? If you were opening a restaurant, you better know food. You better know how to cook. You're going to open these. You have to have a certain kind of skill set. But laundry is something you can learn as you go. But nobody talks about. Well, you still have to learn it. You still have to learn it. Yes, anybody can start a washing machine, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get the same results that are expected out of that, right?
Right. And I think that's such a good point because I was on a different side. Like I didn't know how to do laundry. And so I inherit. So this happened to me and this happens to a lot of owners. So I inherit wash, dry, fold employees. I don't know if they're doing a good job or a bad job. Right? I hope they're doing a good job. So I ended up bringing in one of my friends who owned laundromats and doing a training because this was pre-Laundry University.
Gotcha.
So that was like how I started to like learn, okay, like what is a good wash, dry, fold product? Like how do we
Mm,
deliver that consistently? So then Colleen put together Laundry University, and now I use it as part of my hiring process and my onboarding process. So they're going to train with my employees, and they're also going to go through Laundry University
okay.
before they get turned loose onto the
Real
floor.
customer
And
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and it also is like a good litmus test. Like, I mean, I pay the new hires to go through it, but it's a good litmus test to say, like, is this person going to work?
Mm,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, if they don't want to go through Laundry University, and you're gonna have a certificate,
Yeah.
so like you can prove that you went through this. Like, is that going to be a good hire for you?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's a good another angle of that is that, we talk, there's so much conversation out there about all of the challenges of owning a laundry. And we talk about labor comes up all the time, labor, and that's every business, but particularly
totally.
in our industry. And so how do you make sure not only that you've hired well, but then you can hire somebody and you still don't know. And I love this because it's another layer of like, will they go through this? Will they show enough interest in their job to be able to sit there for, I don't know, however long the courses are and to
Each course is
feel a
about an
sense
hour.
of, there you go. It's just
Yeah.
to feel a sense of accomplishment after going through these levels of this. I love that. And you'll find that out sooner versus after they've been with you for a few weeks or
Yeah.
whatever the case to find
Like
out they have
after
no
they've
interest in
screwed up
really
some
being here.
laundry.
That's right. And they've caused some disastrous, situations for you. That's great.
Yeah.
So what is the mechanism here? So a store owner subscribe to this is kind of the sense that I'm getting. And they tell me more about what does somebody do when they sign up?
Yeah, so you pay per seat. So I'm going to be rolling out some additional options, but
Okay.
you basically pay per seat. So if you're opening a new laundromat, you've got 7 employees, you pay for 7 seats,
Okay.
and you pay for each level individually, or you can buy a bundle and kind of go
Okay.
through either the employee levels, levels 1 through 300 or 100 through 300, and then the owner is level 400. So you can do it that way. If you're a larger organization, we're going to be rolling out like custom learning landing pages
Mm,
for laundromats. And so you'll have the ability to also host, maybe you have welcome videos, maybe you
mm,
have videos on uniforms, and things like that. And so you can include those videos in your landing page, in addition to having the certification program. That way you kind of have like your own mini hub of,
it's like an
like
onboarding
where,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, this is where you go for your onboarding and training. And I think this industry, we love to complain about our employees. We need them, we love them, but they're, it's tough too. And that is, I experience that every single day. But then on the other hand, it's like, okay, and what is my part? My part is making sure that I've got like the best trained, most successful employees. So that gives me confidence as an owner, and it also gives my employees confidence that
Hmm.
they know what the heck they're
They're
doing,
doing. Yeah.
and they can take pride in that.
Right.
So that's kind of how I look at it. I'm like, this is like a mechanism to really help elevate the whole business, the
Hmm.
employees, the owner, obviously their bottom line. So I'm like, yeah, to me, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. So I'm excited
Yeah.
about it.
I love it. And so it kind of ties right back into this idea that, not everyone jumps into this business understanding every layer of it, and having these channels to go and to learn a layer of this that, again, wash, dry, and fold to me is almost its own business inside the laundry. I mean, obviously we're self-service. People do their own stuff. They take their own hands and they do their own wash. They're gonna whatever outcome they get. But when you pay somebody else to do laundry, there's an expectation there. And just saying, "Oh yeah, I do wash and fold," without actually saying that I've done anything to like validate the fact that I can do a good job for someone else. So this is a great avenue. And I think from a distributor perspective, again, to kind of pull it back in, I have no, even though, not everything that we do as a distributor results in us selling something per se, but again, it goes back to saying, well, you should have something like this so that as you open up, your team understands how to run your business the way you want. And so have you thought about it all, how a distributor can help get their investors connected with you and kind of be involved in some way to encourage this? Have you
Yeah.
doing anything there?
Yeah, I think there's a few different things that will roll out. I think one will be, for distributors who want to create their own landing page and have the courses and maybe maintenance videos of their own. Because
Oh,
I mean, it's
cool.
pretty
Yeah.
cool, right? Like if you have your logo at the
Yeah.
top and like, we talk about like investing in owner success. One of
Hmm.
the ways that you can invest in your client's success is create your own landing page with the certification program in there and say, hey, congratulations on your new store. Here's a special gift
Yeah.
from us to you, because we want to make sure that you succeed.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one way. And then I think there will be another kind of like referral program way where, they can earn money or
Sure.
something. We'll figure out what they're
Yeah.
earning. But we're going to roll something out where they can, be rewarded
Involved. Yeah.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
for sharing it with their customers. Yeah, I think I've owned it for it'll be a month. It'll be one whole month tomorrow. So I'm figuring it out.
I get it. I get it. And that's exciting. Yeah, again, there's a lot to this, and I'm sure, with your background and your experiences here, you'll turn it into exactly where it should be, and it's in a good place with you. So, congratulations there. That's really exciting.
Thank
I'm sure we will hear more from you as you get your feet under you and kind of get your game plan in place of how you're going to take this first. And so, but I'm certainly going to look forward to seeing, what happens next. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Kind of as we kind of roll to the end of this conversation, I'd love to have you, plant some wisdom on us, look into the future. What's the next big thing? What's going to happen next in this business that you think that we're all going to have to pay attention to?
Isn't that the wild card, right?
That's
Because
right.
I think if you asked me 7 years ago, right, the answer was technology.
Yeah.
And so like
Well,
the
that's here. So
and so I think we're kind of seeing, at least some of what's next, and that's consolidation. But I think that has a lot of benefits too, right? Because we are all, like you said earlier, the rising tide lifts all boats. So we're all professionalizing, and so I think that's what we're going to see is more consolidation. I expect that we will have to kind of sharpen our game. But I think it's still going to be a great business. So I think that, we got to focus, and lean into it.
yeah.
And that's where I think the other things that we talked about with like marketing and like play your own game.
Right.
Like on TikTok, I've seen like moms like doing car seat cleaning services.
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
gosh, like I think you could have a whole business just on cleaning car
I
seats,
was going to say, it's been a few years for me, but that's not a job I wanted to ever do. There's
No,
some nasty stuff that ends up in those things.
no, yeah, right. I know. I'm
Great business though. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that's where it's like, where is this gonna go? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be really cool and interesting and exciting and dynamic because honestly, that's how this industry has always been. So I think that the interesting thing is when we have constraints, it also forces us to learn to do things different and to try new things. And so I think that that's what's going to happen. I think there will continue to be some more constraints and pressure, and we will have to figure out new and interesting ways, to keep doing what we're doing and make money.
Yeah, if you weren't going to say it, I was, but I feel like all of those pressures are what makes changes. That's what makes things happen, and I think likely in the right direction. Yeah, amazing. Jamie, this has been wonderful. Thank you for sharing this. It's been great to hear your perspective on things, and I look forward to having more conversations like this. If we can have you back. So
No, it's
thank
been
you
my
so
pleasure.
much.
Thanks so much for having me, Steve.
Thanks a bunch. We'll see you soon.